Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're very excited because today we're going to be speaking with Ian Bunbury and Henry, who is one of the stars from Superpower Dogs. For those of you who have not had an opportunity to see it, Superpower Dogs is an OMNIMAX film that showcases the real-life superpowers of our four-legged best friends. Among those, and front and center, you can see I've got a little Henry shrine here behind me, is Henry. And so we're speaking with his human partner, Ian. So Ian, tell us a little bit about where you're from and what your background is, and then we'll introduce our star, so to speak.
All right. Good morning, Cincinnati. Welcome to the podcast, or welcome, not a podcast, a live stream event thing here. That feline thing, trying to get in on the action here.
That's a superpowered cat, right?
Cat, yeah. Cat people, that was your moment right there, cat people. I am a professional ski patroller. I'm currently in a bit of a retired status at Whistler Mountain, Whistler Blackcomb, just north of Vancouver, British Columbia. But I'm also a member of the Canadian Avalanche Rescue Dog Association with my partner, Henry. Henry, you want to come on up here and have a meet with the people? Hop up. Here we go. Here he is. And to get this thing underway, we're going to put on Henry's favorite garment that was given to me as a gift from the people. Cody, thank you very much. We're going to stick that on Henry right here, right now.
Henry's such a good boy.
There we go. All right. Now you're all dressed up for the interview. You good guy. All right.
So that's Henry. Tell us about Henry.
Henry is, he's 8 years old. He's a purebred red and white smooth-coated border collie. He's been my partner since he was 7 weeks of age. He came to me from a breeder in Ontario, which is way across the country from British Columbia. And he and I have been together virtually every day since I got him. He's a fantastic partner. I love him more than words can imagine. I hope he loves me. That I do my best to provide him with a meaningful life, give him all the things that he needs and then some. And he's provided me with so much I can't even imagine. If you told me that I'd be sitting here doing an interview about a film in which my dog was the star 1 year ago, you could have knocked me over with a feather.
So I do want to ask you about Henry and what he does, but you brought up an interesting point. We know he's a working dog. We know that he is extremely skilled. But as you just said, he is still a best friend. He is someone who is close to you. Would you consider him a pet, part of the family? What is Henry to you? A partner?
Well, he's my partner first. I mean, he's my best friend, best working partner first. We sort of tread the line between.
I think he's answering that question for you.
Yeah, exactly. Not exactly your best side. There he is. So we sort of tread the line between, pure working dog, like I say, a cop dog that is completely sort of off limits, even though cop dogs they are socialized, but nevertheless, and a family pet. So my wife, my kids do interact with them, but they don't have that much to do with them because he comes to work with me. He sleeps on a mat beside my bed. When I wake up in the morning, my feet hit the ground. He's like, okay, Dad, what are we going to do today? And I mean, most of our days are pretty routine. But that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. His job specifically as an avalanche search and rescue dog is to indicate to me where human scent is rising up through the snow. So that's kind of the whole gist of our relationship. I've observed him in literally, you're never not looking at the dog. Like even right now, I'm, looking at, what's he looking at? What does he look like when he's looking at? What is he looking at? So when we go for hikes in the bush and stuff like that, I'm always just observing what his body language looks like for any given situation. So when I bring him onto the scene of an avalanche, if it's a strong scent of the guy, the quarry or whatever we're looking for is quite close and it's a strong scent, his body language is going to be full on head down, bum up, dig, 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 which is, easy. Anybody could read that. But there's times when it gets difficult and all you can get out of him is a little bit of a head turn or something like that. If you've missed that, you may have possibly missed a chance to save somebody's life. And like I say, it's just literally, thousands upon thousands of hours of, being together, doing things, just watching what he looks like, what his body looks like in any given situation. So, contrary to, Legend, he's not carrying around a keg of whiskey or anything like that. It's just me and him working together, and we are part of a bigger team when we do react to an avalanche scenario or a training situation. It's not just him and I out there. We're supported by, people with the probes, people that are doing the shoveling, people that are looking out for our safety, lookouts and spotters and all the rest of that stuff. So it's a team thing, and he's my partner.
So I don't want to take any of the spotlight off of Henry, but you've had other dogs in the past that you've worked with Avalanche Rescue before, right?
That's correct. So he's my third border collie. I started this game. Well, actually, I started this game way, way back when I was a child. My dad was involved in a group called North Shore Search and Rescue. He had a search and rescue dog, and that's why I first got exposed to search and rescue dogs and working dogs in general. In 1993, I got my first search and rescue dog, first CARTA dog. He was a border collie, black and white, named Scout. He worked for about 10 years, and then I got another black and white border collie named Hector, and he was a fantastic dog. And then Henry was born in 2012, and he and I have been together ever since.
So how long did it take you to train Henry, and what did that training look like?
Well, the short answer is it takes about 2 years to get your dog from puppyhood to being an operational team. The training starts out, and I mean, it's a game to the dog throughout. They don't know that it's work. They just go, "Oh, this is a fun thing that Dad and I do together. Let's keep it up." But it starts out, it starts out when the dog's just a little puppy, and you go for walks in the woods. And at first, when the dog is small, he sticks right with you. He's like, "Okay, there's Dad. I got to keep my eye on him," right? But as the dog gets older and his world starts to expand, he starts to, as you go for these walks, he starts moving further and further away from you. And what you do is he goes down the trail one way, and when you see him heading off that way, you turn and go the other way and hide behind a bush or something like that, right? And he go, "Oh, what happened to Dad?" And he quickly realizes that even though he can't see you, he can still find you through a means that's actually far more reliable than vision, because he's seeing with his nose what can't be seen by us. And that's why we hire these guys to do this work for us, right? We can't see somebody who's buried beneath the snow, but for a dog, it's like, "Really? I can't see the guy? No big deal. I can use this thing, this nose," which is many, I mean, science hasn't even figured out how much more powerful their sense of smell is than ours. At first, it was thought to be they could discriminate in parts per million. Excuse me. Then it's kind of become accepted now they can detect in parts per billion, and now they're even speculating that it could be parts per trillion. So imagine that. Imagine that power. We have 5 million scent receptors in our nose. Dogs have 200 million scent receptors in their nose, and more than that. Where for us, it's our visuals. When we describe things, we always don't. What does it look like? Show a picture of a guy, a 65 Mustang, and we go, "Oh, okay, I see that." Then you show a picture of a 68 Mustang, and you can see these little differences, and you go, "Oh, I like this one better than that one for whatever reason." Well, a dog, it's all about their sense of smell, and they can. The discrimination is. It's just incredible. When you hear about people trying to hide whatever by, putting a different scent over it or something like that, put it in a bag and then put something else. And the dog goes, "Yeah, okay, I smell that and that and that and that and all these other things that you didn't even think of. I can see them with my nose, differentiate all of them, and I can indicate to you which one that you're looking for." Now, obviously, it takes a bit of training, but anyways. So I ran off on a bit of a tangent there. Once the dog understands that his nose is the key to the whole thing, then you start progressing it to the snow environment, the winter environment, right? So we just start by somebody holds my dog. It's called a master runaway. Somebody holds my dog. I run away from him and just go lay down in the snow. The dog runs over. He goes, "Oh, this game can be played in the snow as well." And then we start digging shallow little pits in the snow and throw a light little snow cover over me But now the dogs are really starting to understand the game, so you can start introducing other people, so strangers and the thing. Dog goes, oh, okay, what I'm looking for, I can't actually see. It's buried underneath the snow. So I run over there, dig, 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 find the guy, ends up in a game of tug, tug, tug. The dog's like, wow, this is a fantastic game. And then we start progressing it further than that. We're actually digging caves in the snow. We put somebody in there, varying amounts of time before we actually start the search. Excuse me. Then we bring the dog in, and the dog goes, okay, I'm going to head out here, and I'm going to use my nose to indicate to dad, where that scent is rising up through the snow. And again, back to my initial point there, that's the whole nuts and bolts of my relation, or my part of this job, is to recognize through a change in his body language where he's indicating where the snow, or where the scent is rising up through the snow. And then to take it the furthest step, or the next step, is we start scenting articles. So we get big woolly sweaters. We put them in our beds at night so that our dead skin cells, because that's what they're smelling, is dead skin cells that are coming off of us. The article will become infused with that smell. Put it in a plastic bag, take it up the hill, let it get cold, bury it in the snow, and it can be. I've done one where I was looking for an article that was 3 days old. So 72 hours later, we showed up on scene, and there's been other stories of stuff even longer than that. Dogs will find articles that didn't get found, and they'll come back a week, 2 weeks later, and the dog will, hey man, here's this thing we didn't find a couple weeks ago. You still want me to find it for you? Yes, I do. And when you see stuff like that, your mind is completely blown. You're going, oh my God, I can't believe you found that, right? And by then, the snow, snow has been drifted over. You have no idea where the thing is, and the dog still is like, yeah, I have no problem with this, man.
So before anyone gets too excited and goes out and decides they're going to train their own dog to do what Henry does, what advice do you have for them, or what words of caution do you have for someone who sees this film or sees Henry and is like, I can do that. Let's go get a dog.
Well, I mean, the first thing is, as I mentioned earlier there, I went from, child, teenager, had a dog of my own when I was a kid, and then went for a long period of time before I got my first dog, Scout, back in 1993. And what the point I'm trying to make is your life, the elements of your life have to be in order before you can take on something like this, right? It can't be just a side deal. I'm just going to have this guy, and every once in a while I'm going to, do some stuff with him. This is an all or nothing commitment. You're literally, this guy sitting beside me here could literally save a human life one day. And that's what gets me out of bed in the morning, is the possibility that I can form a relationship with this other species, and he's going to do work that I can't do and possibly help me save a life. So the first thing is to make sure that the parts of your life are ready for you to have a dog, dedicate the time to him, and then, find a group in your area, somebody who can mentor you and take you through the process. The big thing, a word that you hear us use all the time, is called engagement. How does the dog feel about working with you, right? So this is an analogy that I use with my Ian Bunbury Dog School clients. I go, remember as you were growing up and you had people in your life that really ignited your passion for learning, and you really wanted to make you get out there and do it, right? That's who you're trying to be to your dog, okay? And through positive reward-based training, that's how we get there. And that's a whole nother topic, but nevertheless, there you go.
Well, that goes a little bit into a question that we have in the chat. Jim wants to know, do you use tug toys as a reward when Henry finds what he's looking for, like they do in the film with Halo, or how do you reward him when he finds what you're looking for, when he does what you want him to?
Jim's got it correct. That's exactly what we do. It's a game of tug, right? So you develop this game of tug with the dog when he's a puppy. I'll be quite honest with you, Henry, he's got a decent tug game, but quite honestly, he's like, he'll find the article or the human, will engage in a little bit of a tug thing, and he's like, okay, can we get back to searching now? Because as a border collie, like what he finds rewarding is the roaming around, like that for him makes him feel good. Is he will like, yeah, okay, let's play with that, but let's get back to the searching part, right? Now you can imagine, border collies out in the the working world. I mean, they're out there herding sheep for hours upon hours in the course of a day, and that's where Henry's is happiest. But the short answer to Jim's question is, yeah, we use tug toys, rags, articles of clothing, whatever. So the dog is motivated to find that thing, to initiate that game. And, some dogs, like the Malinois that we have in our program, I mean, these dogs are like, they'll tear your face off to get at that tug. Like that's what they want, right? Where, like I say, Henry, he's got a decent tug game, but really it's the searching part himself that he finds most rewarding.
Well, that's interesting, because a lot of dogs now have been bred to be pets, or you've got a lot of crossbreeds. You end up with dogs like pugs and other things and bulldogs are very far from what they were originally intended for and how they were originally, raised to be. So with Henry and doing this work, that's more in line with his instinct, with his nature, and what makes him so great at what he does. You're kind of just turning him loose to be a border collie, to be the dog that nature intended him to be. Is that right?
You've got it absolutely correct. And that's, what we're doing is we're exploiting the dog's prey drive. So remember that all dogs, doesn't matter what dog you see, where the pug, you name it, they're all descended from the same species of gray wolf. Okay, so any dog that you see is literally 99.96% DNA, the same as that gray wolf. So all dogs possess that. But it's what we've done to them over the years with respect to their physical qualities that limits what they can do. So, a Chihuahua may have a fantastic nose, and, you could train it for scent work, but, try moving that Chihuahua around in deep powdery snow on an avalanche site. It's probably not the best tool for the job. A border collie, I mean, my favorite breed is a German Shepherd. That's what we had when I was a kid. I love that breed. But for me personally, it's not a right fit for me. This goes back to the point that I was making earlier. It's not a right fit for me. I'm into trail running, mountain biking, motorcycle, snowmobile. So a German Shepherd, an 80-pound dog I'm a 145-pound man. That's a lot of meat to pass around, right? So it took me a while to find that border collie was the breed for me. It was the year, so around 1990 when I started ski patrolling. A friend of mine who was in the dog program at Whistler Mountain, she had a border collie. He said, "Would you like to hang on to my dog for a couple of weeks while I go?" I said, "I would love to," and that's where I first fell in love with the breed.
Victoria asks, is there a certain breed of dog that is better suited to avalanche search and rescue than others? I mean, are border collies it? Is Henry it? Or is there another dog that's comparable or even better for this line of work?
Well, everybody selects the dog they think is right for them. They look at the job and go, okay, what does this job entail, right? So, this job entails, moving around on snow, nasty terrain, nasty weather, and all that stuff, right? So, and you look at, again, your life circumstance, and you decide which breed is best for you. The sort of most important thing, so go back to your thing. The border collies are a little bit unusual in Carta. I think there's one, maybe two others in the program, but for the most part, border collies, as good as they can be in the hands of a good handler, they can also be a nightmare because they're so smart and so intelligent that if you don't give them proper direction, okay, this is the job that I want you to do, and I'm going to have you stick to it. They can pick up bad habits. The classic one is what's called a false indication. The dog goes, he starts, maybe there's something on the snow there. The dog will start digging at it. And if you're not skilled enough to recognize that, oh, he's just giving me interest and not indication, you start encouraging that, and the dog starts going, oh, really? That's what you want me to see? I'll start doing it all over the place. And then you get what, like I said, false indications. I'm getting away from your question here. The main thing to be looking for is working lines of the specific breed that you want to work with, right? So Labs, Malinois, German Shepherd, Golden Retriever. These are some common breeds that are in our program. I might be missing a few there. We've tried Poodles. Poodle could be a good dog. It actually passed the initial assessment, but later on when things got a little bit more difficult and more challenging, the weaknesses, the fact that this dog didn't come from working lines, started to show up, and the dog eventually had to be scrubbed from the program. If you can see the mom and dad, and if you can see the mom and dad working, you have a really good chance, or chance isn't the word, probably proper word, but a good, you know what I'm trying to say is your expectations can be high. You can see mom and dad doing the job that you want your dog to do, your dog will probably do it as well, and hopefully better. That's the whole idea, is you try and sort of elevate their performance. You go, okay, this is what I had, and this is what I want to build on, and make a better one than the one I had before. So that's kind of the philosophy that I took through my 3 border collies. You know, I didn't really understand. I understood rewards, but I didn't really know how to use them properly with my first dog. By the time I got to the 3rd dog, and I'd attended the Michael Ellis School for Dog Trainers down in California, I got a much better handle on it, and I have the dog that I have today, resting comfortably beside me here.
For anyone who got to see Henry when he was in Cincinnati, he's incredible. I mean, I was you and I were at a TV station, and you had to walk away for a moment. You asked Henry to stay in place under a table, and 3 or 4 people walked by, and they got down, and they're like, "Come here, buddy, let me pet you," and trying to coax him out, which, you know, my dogs, they would do that in an instant. Henry just laid there, wouldn't budge, and you come back out, and he still didn't budge. And they said, "Oh, hey, can we pet your dog?" And you said, "Sure." And you called Henry, and he was out like that. I mean, it's incredible how well trained he is in all circumstances. And we had him inside Union Terminal with hundreds of people and hundreds of distractions. We had school kids eating lunch and dropping crumbs and stuff on the floor, and Henry couldn't be bothered with it at all. It was really impressive.
I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. But that didn't happen just overnight. That's literally hundreds, thousands of hours and dollars spent training him, right? And using positive reward-based methods, he understands that, okay, I'll put up with all this because I know at some point Dad's going to want to engage me again, and there's something in it for me, right? People, I mean, dogs do love us. There's no doubt about that. And we love dogs. And, that relationship, I'm not going to try and besmirch that in any way. But dogs are very much like us. They will work harder if they know there's something in it for them. Just think about yourself or anybody else that's watching this thing. How often would you show up for work if after a couple of if after a couple of weeks you weren't getting paid? You go, yeah, okay, I like this place. I like the people that I work with. I even like the work, but man, I got to get something out of this, or I can't show up, right? Well, a dog is the same way. He will do those things, but if you show him that there's something in it for him, food, tug toy, whatever, like something that's really tangible to the dog, he's going, yeah, man, I'll do this. You described that scene where literally Henry is in the midst of a crowd of hundreds of kids, and he's, Dad, where are you over there? Like, are we going to do that? And, you give him something to do and reward him for it. It's like, yeah, man, I'll put up with all this all day, every day. And, I'm all good.
So I do want to talk about the film. I want to talk about yours and Henry's experience of the film. But can we take a quick break? And does Henry have anything for us? Can he make an appearance for us?
Let's bring him up here. Henry here. Yeah. Henry here. I think he's right here. Henry, touch. Yep. Touch. he's on a flimsy little chair right here. Oh. Hang on a sec. Oh. That was weird. He had his tail stuck in the chair. Henry, here, hop up.
We saw that cat walking around. I just figured he was getting into something.
Yeah, I know the cat's
he
over
was
there.
Being jealous.
Henry, here. Henry. Touch. There we go. Oh, there he is. So that was just a little example of the kind of dog that Henry is. He just had I don't know, I think he got his tail stuck in a little slat in the chair here. So he was doing a bit of yodeling there, but he got over it really quickly. And that's kind of, the things that you look for. Here comes Pussycat. Okay. You good guy. Okay? What a good dog, Henry. Okay?
Well, unfortunately, speaking of your cat, because this is a dog-centric.
Oopsie. He
Is he all
jumped off.
right?
Yeah, oh yeah, he knocked the camera. Here, Henry, here, up.
Since this is a dog-centric Q&A,
Uh,
Elizabeth asked if dogs are the only animals with good enough noses to do this. Are there other animals whose sense of smell might lend to this work, or is it the sense of smell combined with the temperament and the demeanor as well?
well, what a fantastic question. I can speak to one example that I know of because I know a guy that did. A friend of mine went to Africa, and he was a first aid guy. He was a nurse.
This is
He was a
great.
nurse. Anyways, he was doing first aid for mine clearing teams in Africa,
Wow.
and out of that got involved. And so who was detecting the mines? Rats were detecting the mines, right? Because the rats are light enough that they can run around on the surface without triggering the mines. And they do the same thing. They have an indication. I think it's like a down thing like this, where they just put their nose right down where the mine is. And the mine clearing goes, okay, there's a mine right there. Let's go dig the thing up, right? Anyways, this guy's job was to do first aid support for the teams that were doing it. But out of that, he got into the work himself. Beyond
That's
that, I'm sorry I can't answer your question more fully than that. But, or sorry, let me expand on that a little bit. The thing that, I mean, other animals, I'm sure, could well be trained to do it. I mean, animals that are in the wild, I mean, they rely on their sense of smell. But it's this relationship that we have with the dog that is unlike any other relationship that we have in the animal kingdom, right? This dog, I mean, for all the things that he can do with respect to his nose, he's my companion. He can be with me, and you alluded to it earlier. I mean, I can literally bring him into any social situation that you'll find in our human world. He's like, yeah, okay, Dad, I'm with you, and let's do this thing. Like, the TV stations, the helicopter rides, the taxi, the hotels, all these things. It's like, yeah, this is no big deal, Dad. Let's do it, right? So, whether or not you could get that out of another animal, I suppose you could. I mean, you just carry him around in a box, then drop him on the sign of an avalanche and say, have at her. But, it's that working relationship, that symbiotic relationship that we have with them that makes them so valuable and so rewarding. I mean, really, when I started, I switched from I was an alpine ski racing coach in my prior career. When some life things happened, I was sort of forced to make a change in my career path. And that was probably the single biggest factor. Was like, okay, I'm not working with athletes anymore. I can work with a dog. First question I asked my boss was, hey, can I be in the dog program? He said, no. He said, you got to wait your turn. We have enough dogs in the program right now. But, that's really what's driven my career as a ski patroller for the last nearly 30 years here is, the fact that I have this guy to work with every day. So
you mentioned helicopters, and I want to talk to you a little bit about travel and what it's like to travel with Henry. But speaking of helicopters, the opening scene of Superpower Dogs is pretty intense. It's you and Henry, and helicopters involved. I'll let you describe it, but talk a little bit about that opening scene of Superpower Dogs, what it was like to shoot that. Had you done it before, and how you prepared yourself?
That was a lot of fun. I mean, to hang underneath a very well-maintained machine, that's the important. You got to have absolutely, and that's again more the team thing, right? Is everybody has got a part to play. The pilot, the spotter, the guys on the ground, me and the dog. We've all got our part to play in the thing. Shooting that particular scene was actually about 3 hours of flying time. We were hanging underneath the helicopter, and it's you're connected to a radio. You're hearing the director and the cameraman, all of that stuff, and it's okay. Go to position 1, action, fly through the thing, and do it. And the IMAX. For those of you who have seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you who haven't seen the film, the detail to which IMAX productions are shot is mind-blowing, and because you're seeing things in such a crystal clear image that everything has to be just right. So the director, people are seeing things. Oh no, see that we can't do that. Let's shoot this whole thing again, right? But anyways, there's a funny story out of that whole thing. We we'd been hanging around the helicopter for, like I say, nearly 3 hours. But at some point I was hanging there, and you can see in the film, it's a beautiful day, white puffy clouds, and we're hanging about 4,000 feet above the valley floor. And I had this kind of, well, we try not to think too much about what a dog's what his abstract thoughts might be, because we have no way of knowing, right? But every once in a while you sort of let that creep into your thinking. Because we're hanging there with the harness on, it's quite comfortable, a beautiful sunny day, the dog's hanging there, and I just had this epiphany. It came to me. I went, you know what, like, all this that's happened to me, none of it would have happened if it wasn't for this dog. And I just sort of took in the whole scene and all the rest of that stuff, right? And at that precise moment, the dog looked up at me, and I could swear he was saying to me, yeah, and you know what? If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here either.
Well,
hey, you're a good dog.
So speaking of that, how did you get involved in the film? How were you and Henry recruited, or how did that come to be?
Well, I'll give you kind of a condensed version. What happened was the production team that was behind this thing, when they finished their previous production, they wanted to do another film. And one of the producers said, hey guys, I've got an idea for a dog film. And the other three guys were like, hey, dog film, what are you, like, talking dog, like whatever. He goes, no, it's going to be a dog. It's going to be about the superpowers of dogs. And just bear with me. I'm going to take you guys on a trip around the world, and I'm going to show you what I have in mind for the film, right? So the first stop they made, this was back in 2014, the first stop they made was a CARDA, Canadian Avalanche Rescue Dog Association training course at Whistler, at which Henry and I, we were present, but we weren't actually attending the course, because at that time, Henry was only 2 years old. He was still a puppy, and he wasn't involved in the program. Well, he was involved, but we were the team in training. Nevertheless, they saw the dog, and they liked what they saw. And in fact, one person really liked what they saw. It's actually a woman, part of the production team, not one of the producers. So anyway, she was really high on Henry. She was like, okay, this is the dog that we have to get in the film, right? So, we had a little discussion on the hill and stuff like that. And then off they went to their next stop. And this was in like January 2014. In September 2014, I got a phone call out of the blue. Hi, we're the guys from that film that was there. And do you remember us? And would you like to be involved in our thing? And they, at that point, they really had, it was just a complete, ideas and nothing really concrete or that stuff. So I said, yeah, sounds fantastic. Let me know when you guys want to get into production. So 3 years pass, heard nothing from these guys, like, at all. And I got a phone call September 2017. They say, hey, you remember Cat trying to get in the action again, right? There he is. Hey, we're getting ready to shoot. Like, are you still interested in the project? I said, yeah, absolutely. I would love to. So they came to Whistler in December 2017, and we went up the hill. It was just a small skeleton crew. We went up the mountain, went to the peak of Whistler on a snowmobile. I took Daniel, the writer-director, up the mountain on a snowmobile. We went to the peak, and we have a place up there called Kodak Rock, because every person that goes to Whistler has to have their picture taken on this rock. So I bring Henry over, I sit him on the rock, and he sits there like he does, like you see him in the film, and immediately the tourists just latch onto him and snap. He's taking. Anyways, Daniel turns and looks at me and goes, I think we've got the right dog for the project. So then we started filming in I think it was March 2018, and they were a year or so in post-production to where we are today. And unfortunately, COVID kind of interrupted the world to a degree, but the fact that this thing can still you can still view it and bring it to life, it's fantastic.
Yeah, so you've traveled around the world, right? You've traveled beyond the United States, beyond Canada for this film.
We did one engagement in Stockholm, which was the highlight of, well, my life. I mean, you spoke about it earlier, traveling with the dog. I mean, Dora's just, and a dog like Henry, who's just so amicable, easy to get along with. Dora's just open for you everywhere. People are so wonderful, accommodating, lovely. And Henry just takes it all in stride.
What's it like traveling with Henry? Is he a good travel companion?
He's a fantastic travel companion. When on our trip to Stockholm, he did have to fly in his crate down in cargo, but all the rest of the flights that we did, so we did 15 different cities in America and Canada, and he generally try and book a window seat with the bulkhead. But quite honestly, he's happy in any seat you get, because what he is, he'll just crawl into the seat in front of you, and for a 5-hour flight, he'll just lay there. And I remember on one particular flight, we had just gotten seated, and he was laying on the floor. We did have the bulkhead at this point. He was laying on the floor. He was wearing his working vest, his K9 storm vest, and the flight attendant walked by and just took a glance down and just saw this red article laying there. Goes, "Excuse me, sir, you're gonna have to put that article up in the overhead storage like this, right?" And me and the guy I was sitting beside this guy, we started looking at each other like, well, whatever. Like this, anyway, she came back about 4 minutes and she goes, "I am so sorry. I didn't realize that was a dog down there." Like that stuff. Anyways, it's my sort of goal when I go into situations like this, that people don't even know that he's there, that he's that unobtrusive. He's not causing a fuss. If people want to interact with him, they can. But I really don't want, special accommodation to have to be made for Henry and I traveling. So, anyways.
Have you met any of the other dogs who were in the film?
At the world premiere in Los Angeles, I guess it was March 2019 now, Ferruccio Palenga was there. He's the guy that handles Reef, the Newfie water rescue dog. And I don't want to give it away, but there was a stand-in Newfie there because the Newfies don't travel that well. And, Reef is 150 pounds of big dog. So we had a stand-in dog there. Help me out here. Surfing dog.
Ricochet? Yeah.
Ricochet was there with her handler. And Halo was there with Kat, obviously. The two dogs from Africa, Tony and Tipper, they were not there. But the other dogs were. We had a nice little reunion there, got some group pictures, and it was fantastic meeting. And then these are people like me who are, dedicated their lives to, it's a funny thing, like, and particularly in the Avalanche thing, because really it's not common to have to go and look for an Avalanche victim, right? Which makes things more challenging because you're training for what? And to be quite honest, I would have gone, we have been on the scene of a few recoveries, unfortunately no live recoveries. But if you'd asked me, back in 1993, said, "Ian, you're going to go through your whole career and you're never going to get to search for anybody," I would have said, "Absolutely, sign me up, I'll do it." Because for me, the love of the dog and the love of working the dog is worth it. And beyond that, if it means that nobody's ever going to get caught in an avalanche, so I don't have to go look for them, I would be quite happy with that. I've been caught in a few avalanches over the course of my career, and it's not a pleasant experience. It's not white, fluffy, puffy clouds like people think it is. It's complete mayhem. You have no control over anything. You say, "Oh, try and swim to the surface." Forget all of that. You're just an object on the planet getting worked, and it's fortunately, I was never buried. You wind up on the surface and thank your lucky stars, dust yourself off, and go, "Man, I don't want to go through that again." So, I mean, for me, I have a hard enough time just getting into the cave to be a quarry for somebody else. I have bad claustrophobia. The idea of being trapped in an avalanche to me is like a nightmare.
So you're a master of teeing up these questions that we have coming in. Victoria asks, how does Henry respond when he finds someone when he doesn't have a tug toy, or when you're out searching for someone? Do you still have the tug toy there for when they find them, or what's the cue there?
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, like Henry is, if you didn't have the toy, he wouldn't really care that much, right? It's just sort of it makes for a fun, happy ending to the search. But again, like I said, for Henry, he's like, yeah, whatever, let's just keep searching, right? Here's a little story, whatever. The one find that Henry does have, We were about 3 hours into it, which is a long time to be searching. You can imagine, or please imagine, like the most difficult mental task that you can think of, and how long you can sort of keep that up. Well, multiply that by 1,000 times. 80% of a dog's brain function is devoted to processing scent. So when you actually give him a task, okay, I give hit him with the S word. I want you to start searching. Like, I mean, we go for long walks all the time, and he's using his nose. When he's actually being directed, okay, this is it. I want you to start looking for this particular scent. It takes an incredible amount out of the dog. So, anyways, we've been searching for about 3 hours. There's a probe team on site, and they had poked something that they thought might be the subject we were looking for. I start walking up the hill to go investigate what they're doing. Henry, by this time, has walked off to another. Well, he'd winded the person over an area that we'd already been over 3 times, but it just took that long for the scent to rise to the surface for him to find it. He went down there and started making an indication, dig. By the time I got down there, he actually had the guy's arm out and was, playing the game with it all by himself. So that's the thing, is you need a dog that is, self-motivated to do this work. And like I said, after 3 hours, I was happy. Everybody on the scene was happy because you brought closure. It was unfortunate the person was not found alive. And as it turned out, that person was probably deceased before the avalanche even stopped moving. He got dragged through some nasty terrain, through trees and stuff like that. This guy he had the proper equipment, he had the proper training. He was in a group of other people, properly trained people, and they executed the search immediately. But unfortunately, in this particular case, the avalanche transceiver that he had on his person, unfortunately, has been shown to be able to be switched accidentally from transmit, that's where it's sending out a signal for other people to find, to receive. And that's what happened to him in this particular case. And that's why the people couldn't have found him sooner. But again, I have little hope that he would have been found alive, even if they'd been able to find him within, minutes. So
that actually answered a question someone had, was how many people Henry has found. I don't want to miss this opportunity to ask you, did you get to meet Chris Evans, or what was it like to work and interact with Chris Evans?
You know what? It was funny when I think the first guy they had another guy, his name will come to me.
Robert Downey Jr., right?
Downey Jr., exactly right. And that name I had heard. For whatever reason, I heard him. Chris Evans.
I think Robert Downey Jr. would probably do a better job as the voice of your cat than Henry, right? I feel like cats are probably more sarcastic.
Okay. Anyways, I'm not a real big movie fan. The whole Captain America thing, I knew nothing. But anyways, when I told people that Chris Evans was going to be the one, oh my God, that's amazing. I was like, who's Chris Evans, right? So I had no expectation or anything like that about the guy. Anyways, they decided, it was late in post-production. They were sort of, fine tuning things. They thought, you know what, it might be helpful if we get Chris to actually meet Henry. So they flew Henry and I out to Boston, where I believe Chris is from that area. And we were in a sound studio, and we were there, and Chris walks in, totally regular guy, like no logos, no entourage, no nothing, just a single guy by himself walks in. Hey, my name's Chris. This is Henry. And they immediately hit it off. You can tell that Chris is a dog person. He totally, as soon as he met Henry, he was like, okay, I get this thing. This isn't just a dog movie now. This is much more than that. And now that we've actually made a connection. Anyways, they went into the sound studio after that. And, Chris brought Henry's personality to the screen. And I hope people that see the film, seen the film, really, really get that PSA, the public service announcement that Chris does at the end of the film. It is just a little part of it. And I have to actually add this to the story, is we walk in and we put Henry on the couch, My IT person's leaving, so I'm all on my own here. We put Henry up on the couch. They have a little bit of interaction, and they say, "Hey, Chris, we've got some points here. Would you like to read off cue cards?" And he goes, "Well, let me have a look at them." Right. So they hold up the cue cards. He goes, "Got it, 10-4. Take them away like this, right?" And he proceeded to crank off probably that one PSA as a result of probably 20 takes, and each one of them they could have used any one of them. And the guy is flawless, and he nailed it was like half a dozen points or something like that. He nailed every one of them, and he's got a dog on his shoulder, sticking his tongue in his ear and stuff like that. And Chris is like, I mean, I obviously I'm not an actor, I'm not around that world, so but it gave me a whole appreciation of just how professional he is, and I mean, actors, I guess, in general. I was blown away. It's fantastic.
So do you and Henry have any more movies on the horizon? Are you full-fledged movie stars now, or what's next for you all?
Well, the short answer is no. I'm so grateful for the opportunities that this thing has presented for me. Like when I got involved in this thing, when I got that phone call back in September 2014, they said to me, will you be prepared to travel with the film after it releases? And I was like, absolutely, sign me up. Like I went, I'm a small town guy from a small town, and I haven't really traveled that very much. So it gave me an opportunity to see a part of the world and see things. I mean, the stuff that I've seen, like in your museum alone, was worth the price of admission. It's been fantastic. Who knows? Maybe there'll be some other things on the horizon. But right now, I had my hip replaced last year, and I'm contemplating whether or not I'll actually be going back to ski patrolling. It's a very physically demanding job. You don't know what you're going to be faced with every day. The dog still has a couple of years left in his career. We usually work them until they're about 10. You do the human dog year thing, that's about 70 years of age. And I sure would like to think that I'll be retired for sure by the time I'm 70. We want to give the dogs, we don't want to work them, even though their noses are still absolutely capable of doing the work. They, physically they slow down, and it's time to move them on and give them a nice life of retirement and let the younger generation, move in and take their place. So, as I mentioned before, I've been doing this since '93. It's been a good long career. It's been 3 fantastic dogs. Each one is sort of built on, the one before. They've all been a progression. They've all been, the dog that I needed at that time. You get the dog that you deserve. You get the dog that you develop, and each one of them have been just fantastic. So.
Well, that's amazing. I think that's about it for us. Does Henry want to send us off before
Henry,
we close out?
Can you come over here and give me a high five? There we go. Oh,
good dog.
Go. Hey, what a good guy. You're a good dog. Hey, you are a good guy. Can you speak to me? Hey, speaking. Speak. Yeah, good guy. All right. What a good dog. Hey, Cody. Oh, you still there? Oh,
yeah, I'm still here. No, we're good. We're still here.
Okay. I just wanted to thank you personally for the time that I had in Cincinnati. Hanging out with you and your kids was just fantastic. One of the highlights of my trip. And that museum you guys have, Union Station, I mean, purely for the architectural value, that alone, never mind all the things that it houses, it's fantastic.
I think Henry saw every inch of the museum. We've got photos of him touching, staring up, licking his chops at some dinosaur bones. He got to walk through the cave. He played tug of war with the big pendulum. I think he was challenging some of us to tug of war. So yeah, we had a lot of fun. And like you said, my kids got to meet Henry. They spent some time with him. And so afterwards, we'd be driving down the road and they'd see billboards for Superpower Dogs, and they'd yell out Henry. And Henry's tucked in there with, the 4 or 5 other dogs that are in the film, but they could spot him immediately. So Henry absolutely left an impression. I've been with the museum center for 9 years as this has been one of the absolute highlights of my time with the Museum Center. So thank you for that. Absolutely.
You're most welcome.
Anyone who has not seen the film, it is now showing at Cincinnati Museum Center. So you can come, you can see that in the OMNIMAX theater. That opening scene where Ian and Henry are hanging from a helicopter is very stunning, and it makes full use of that OMNIMAX experience. Otherwise, for those of you who enjoyed this and who enjoy Cincinnati Museum Center, feel free to check this out afterwards and miss all the little tidbits that you might not have caught today. And if you'd like to support Cincinnati Museum Center, you can always donate at cincymuseum.org/donate, and that will help keep programs like this and films like this coming to Cincinnati and make Cincinnati Museum Center the museum that we all know, love, and enjoy. Ian, Henry, so great to see you. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
You're both good dogs. The cat, the verdict's out.
All right. Bye, Cincinnati. Thanks for coming by. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.